I wanted to make a short little video that you can either watch for yourself and then emulate with your kids, or simply share with your students if you want, in order to help prepare them for the upcoming writing test. I am going to focus this video on writing a 5 paragraph essay, but you can shorten it for younger kids who will be writing just a single paragraph. The graphic organizer that you might be given from the state has a triangle at the top, shaped like an upside down triangle, pointing towards the middle box. And then down here at the bottom, instead of a box, it's a right side up triangle. And the reason they give you a triangle shape is to remind you that the introductory paragraph should start with a really broad statement that will bring in all your readers and end with a thesis statement that is really specific. But I'm using squares because that's me. I like squares. My example question is, should the government employ drones to watch over all public places, or is that an invasion of privacy? So step number 1 is to read the prompt and make sure you understand what it's talking about. There will be multiple question options for your kids to choose from, so they can make sure to choose one that's only talking about things they understand or they know about or that they care about. I'm going to choose to write my essay as though I think the government should employ drones, but just so that I have something easy to write about. The first step in writing, after you have come up with what your opinion is to do what I call the rule of threes. And that's where you're going to do 3 over, and then once you've come up with 3 over, you're going to come up with 3 down. So I'm asking myself now, what are 3 reasons that the government might want to put drones out in public places? So reason number 1 that I can think of easily is that it might reduce crime. Not the drones themselves, but the video recordings might help reduce crime. It might help reduce reckless driving. And finally, I think that drones in public places might help kids feel they might feel safer in their communities. So once you've gone over for 3, now I want you to come up with 3 examples and go down. So for the sake of the speed of this video, I already did that. So I think that a good way to read 3 kinds of crime are home invasions, graffiti, and car thefts. I think that there's not just speeding and reckless driving is pretty vague. So I can say that in the town I came from, there was a street that was really famous for teenage drag racing. I think it's really common for schools to be on main or busy roads, and people speed through those school zones all the time. And then finally, if there were drones, it might help reduce distracted driving, such as texting or eating or doing your nails or makeup while you're driving. Finally, my third topic is that kids in the community will be safer, as in they could walk to the park or the playground, they could ride their bikes in the streets, and they might feel safer to walk to and from school, knowing that there was video recording happening to make sure that they were able to get there safely. So once you've gone over for 3 and then down for 3, now it's time to move up to this top box, which is for the introduction. The introduction box is going to start out blank, like it is over here, but you're going to write in it what your hook is and what your thesis statement is. The hook can be really hard to think of. How are you going to draw in your readers? Who cares about this subject? And so my favorite 3 forms of hook are a startling statistic, which is where you might, if you had access to this kind of information, or you can make it up because the reader won't know, you can make up a statistic that is going to be shocking or surprising that will bring your readers in and they'll be interested to read the rest of your essay. If you are going to choose to go for the questions hook, I recommend you are really careful with this one. You don't want to say, "Have you ever thought about drones?" The question cannot be, "Have you ever thought about?" Because then if the answer is no, then the reader is not going to want to keep reading your story. So you want to ask a question that everybody is going to have an answer to that's not just no. So either an open ended question or a question that draws all people in, no matter who they are. Um, and finally, a quote. So you can make up a quote. You can just say, "It has been said that, blah, blah, blah." And then you've said it, so it's been said. Or you can look up a quote. And then once you've thought of at least, or just one, I suppose, just one hook, but you're welcome to use one of these three formats, then come up with your thesis. And your thesis is going to follow this format. My opinion on the subject because reason 1, comma, reason 2, comma, and reason 3, period. Your thesis does not have to be creative. It does not have to be fancy and magical. What it does is need to be strong. So you want your thesis to be kind of like the foundation of a house. You want your foundation to be firm and solid and concrete. It's kind of boring, but it's firm and it makes the rest of the house safe and strong and the place that you want to go be. So the thesis for this essay would be, my opinion on the subject is, the government should employ drones to watch over all public places because it might reduce crime, comma, it might reduce speeding and reckless driving, comma, and the kids in the community will feel safer, period. Once you've written out your thesis and written out the single sentence that you're going to use for your hook, you're then ready to get started writing your essay. And just sort of fill these things in. So you know what your hook is going to be, and then a couple sentences explaining that and leading up to your thesis. Your thesis will be there. And then the topic sentence of paragraph number 1 will be, drones watching over public places will help reduce crime, period. And then you'll have at least one sentence on home invasions, at least one sentence on graffiti, and at least one sentence on car thefts. Of course, you're welcome to write more about graffiti or write more about car thefts or spend a little more time describing how dangerous distracted driving is in paragraph number 2. So if you do a topic sentence, at least one on each of your 3 main ideas, and then a concluding sentence, each of your body paragraphs will be 5 sentences long. And that's a really effective strategy for kids who are really logical thinkers who want to know what is the right thing to do, what is the bare minimum, what is my target that I'm shooting for, can I meet that? So if you provide them with this format, then those kinds of kids with that really concrete thinking style can meet the target. So I filled this in over here just to give you an idea of a couple more things. So the starting statistic that I made up, it's totally not true. I made it up. 90% of all crime happens in the dark or when people are not watching. And then I would say, what if that could be changed? And then there would be drones watching, and therefore 90% of all crime that happens would reduce. Wouldn't that be great? That would be a future worth working towards. Therefore, the government should employ drones to watch over all public places because they will reduce crime, reckless driving, and make kids feel safer in their communities. Period. The question that I came up with was, would you feel safer walking to your home in the dark if you knew you weren't alone? And I recognize that not every single person is nervous walking around in their neighborhood in the dark, but it is very common. And even if you yourself do not get a little bit nervous in your neighborhood, you can imagine people who would. And so that question is acceptable because even if you yourself might not say yes to it, you can always imagine people who would. And then I looked up a quote that says that it takes up over $40 billion a year and that the mafia spends very little on office supplies. So then, I mean, I don't think most people are thinking about drones stopping mafia from doing their thing, but it was a good quote. So once you've got your hook, your thesis, and your topic sentence and your main ideas, There's nothing left to do but write. And then, of course, go back and edit, looking for spelling, especially homophones, commas, um, internal punctuation, indenting those new paragraphs, all that kind of stuff. And I'll have a document that you can use to help your kids edit their own writing. Thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful to you.